Ready or not, winter is coming here in Kentucky, and I need to get my chicken coops ready. Now, we've already had our first frost of the season, and I need to get busy and get these chickens protected from the wind. Hey friends, it's Barbara Sue at Kowalski Mountain, and welcome back to the homestead. If you remember, we started our homesteading journey with just 3 chickens, and now I have a lot more than 3. It's actually closer to 60 chickens here on the homestead. Now they are in 3 coops, plus I have a 4th rooster cage, which we need to process the roosters soon. But today's task is to get these chicken coops insulated. Now, we like to reuse as much materials as we possibly can here on the homestead. And while I could go buy tarps that might get us through the season, I'm going to use grain sacks to make custom tarps for these chicken coops. And I'm going to bring you along and show you what I'm going to do. Now in here in the chicken coop, we have a roosting area, and I'm going to box this in on the inside as well to make a smaller area so that the chickens can kind of hold their heat in and make a smaller area that they need to heat. Now, we don't give our chickens any type of heat lamps or anything like that during our winters here. They are sheltered, and then we give them good shelter, and then they use their body heat to heat the space. Now, by enclosing this, they're going to have a lot smaller area to heat. If you've ever been camping, everyone loves the giant cabin tents. And they are roomy and spacious, but you freeze in the night because your body heat has to heat that entire space, and it's a lot of space to heat up with your body. But when we were backpacking, we bought 3-man tents for our family. And while they're smaller and they're not as spacious and you have to crawl around in them, your body heat only has to fill that small area and you're a lot warmer. And we're going to apply the same principle for our chickens. Now, a great way to, when you're building a lot of infrastructure like us, is to reuse and recycle as much as you can. And grain sacks are something that we have in plenty. Now, I'm still mindful that I don't want my farm to look tacky. So some of the grain sacks we have are plain white, and those plain white ones are going to be used on the outside of the chicken coops that people might see when they drive up to the farm. But here on the inside, nobody comes in here. Nobody but me. So it doesn't matter that I'm using these printed bags here inside the chicken coop. So that's my plan of how to best use the materials that I already have. And I say it's for free. The grain wasn't free. So they're not completely free, but it's something that we already have a lot of on hand. Now, the most cumbersome part of this process is removing the stitching that's already on here. You know what I wanted to try, which I did not bring out with me, is my seam ripper for my sewing machine. I think that will be super fast, but I don't want to dig it out. I'm going to use the scissors. Now I'm just going to cut along the seam. And here we go. I've got a giant piece of canvas that now I can use here to help protect my chickens from the wind. I'm going to give the chickens the wallpaper, put it on the inside, and keep the white side on the outside. Now the sun shines just enough through this bag that I can see where the wooden supports are, so I know where to staple. I'll be right back. Well, that was dumb. First Band-Aid. And I'm only on my first grain sack. So while I was in the house, I grabbed the proper tool to do this. So hopefully I will not do that again. Now I'm not going to go all the way down with my staples because I want to be able to open this if I need to clean in there, which I do clean periodically, not near as much as I should, but that will give me a way to get in there to clean better. This chicken coop is the chicken coop that the guineas live in, and they are super sensitive to any changes in their coop. If the feeder falls down, which they knock down, they won't come in. They're all upset because the feeder's knocked down. So I fully expect that they're not going to like coming in here tonight. So I'm probably going to be chasing them in at night tonight. Now that worked out great. That was 2 grain sacks. It didn't require any fancy cutting, and my whole area is covered. On to the other side. If you didn't want to take the time to cut all the strings on this bag, you could just slice the top right off. That would certainly be more time efficient. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it just because I need all the bags I can get. Now I actually have 2 chicken coops I need to do this to. Actually 3. I really need to do it to my rooster pen as well. They need to be butchered, but until then I don't want them freezing. And in that pen they're very exposed. For this project, I am using T50 staples in my staple gun, and this one's kind of cool because the staple comes out up here and I use my whole hand to put leverage on it. Now these are the 3/8 inch staples, or 10 millimeter, and that should work just fine for this project. We try to save the longer staples for jobs that need a little bit heavier securing, and so that's why we picked this. I am just anal enough that I want these to match. I want them And I know my chickens just live here. That's fine. I still want it to look decent and, you know, be somewhat symmetrical because that's just me. So this is done. And in this roosting box, the chickens can go up the little ladder and then they climb up into the back. But now they will be protected from the wind from any on this side. And I can feel a lot of wind in here even today. So that's going to make a big difference for them already. Now my other concentration tonight or today will be to get that back wall done so that we can cut off the wind on that back side. To make this go a little bit more smoothly, I went ahead and did a whole bunch of these bags. They're already open, they're already cut, they're ready. And now I need to figure out how I'm going to do this back side. Now using these grain sacks, I'm sewing them together with my sewing machine. Now I probably should be using a heavier duty needle than I would use for sewing quilts, but I don't have one. So I'm just using what I have and I'm trying to take it slow so not to tear up my needles. So my plan is to sew these two bags together, putting the seam in the middle, and then tucking this around that side. I think I'm going to be a little bit short here, but I think what I'm going to do is this upper part, I want to staple that in permanently on this back side. That keeps out rain out of the roosting box. It keeps the wind out. It gives the chickens a really nice shelter on the back side. That's why I have this plastic here. On the bottom part, the canvas is going to be cut to come up to about this height. And I'm going to tuck it underneath the metal roofing so that it will have kind of a double barrier there. And I think what I'm going to do on the bottom part is I'm going to make a continuous tarp that goes all the way around the three sides of this coop and can be taken on and off. So come summertime, we'll take that down, or come spring, we'll take that bottom part down and allow lots of ventilation through there. But this part will still be sheltered from weather, which is where the chickens sleep. And I want to give them a dry place to be. I think I'm going to do 3 grain sacks across. Because that's going to give me more length. And then I know I'm going to make that corner. And then I'm going to get this stapled in there. So let's go get the sewing machine out and get this going. Sticking with my reuse and recycle theme of this project, I am using some odd threads that I brought for other projects that I have lots of. So rather than use the white, which would match, I'm going to use different threads to kind of use up what I have and not use something that I use frequently for other things. So I've got a bunch of this red. That is what I'm going to use to sew these together because it doesn't matter. Now, believe it or not, these grain sacks do have like an inside and an outside. The outside of the bag is shiny and then the inside is dull. I'm going to do the shiny side on the outside. So that means that I need to do shiny sides together. Working with this canvas, honestly, I would probably benefit with using a walking foot, but I can't find my walking foot. This doesn't feed as well as a fabric does. I'm probably also going to regret how dirty my machine is going to get. But I'll worry about that later. There we go. Now you can see why I'm working outside, because I've got a lot of big fabric, and you know I live in an RV, so working outside is just a lot easier and it's a lot cleaner than taking all this into the house. And it's also extra motivation to get this done before the really cold weather comes in. Now my first couple of sections are sewn, so let's go put them in place. Now right up here at the top, I could certainly cut this, but the metal itself, because this chicken coop is made out of cattle panels, the whole thing is kind of rounded, and the way that Philip put the wire on is also rounded. So by just tucking this up under the metal, I'm going to have better coverage. Now I'm getting a little bit stuck right here. So I'm going to have to find me a step stool so I can work up there a little bit better, and maybe a screwdriver to push it up in there. But that's also going to give the chickens more coverage, and then this space is also going to allow for ventilation, which is very important as well. For this part of the project, I am switching to a T50 1/2-inch staple, which is a 12mm staple, because I'm having trouble getting them to catch through the wire to the wood. If you haven't figured out, I'm kind of making this up as I go along. And I wanted to do a continuous loop around the whole thing that will come on and off. But I want this side to tuck up under the metal to protect the chickens. In order to get that bottom part, I'm going to have to add a sheet of half a bag to do the bottom. And I'm going to go get a second one to double check that. On this back section, I'm going to be able to do it with just a single bag. And that's going to save me a lot of material to be able to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up permanently and do the sides in a separate piece. Now today is day 2 of canvas sewing for the chicken coop, and yesterday I got as far as sewing the 4 panels for the right hand side curtain. So I have the length I need now because I sewed on a half a bag to the bottom of a full bag, and now I'm going to sew these into one long canvas. Now my bags are not cut perfectly straight, and I'm finding they're slightly different in sizes because I'm getting some ends that aren't matching up, and that's not just due to my cutting. So I think pinning the seam will help me because this fabric doesn't move like using real fabric. This is not fabric, it's canvas and it's plastic. So by pinning it, I have a better chance of keeping it all lined up better. And I know it's just for the chickens, but the things I know in sewing apply even to a project that I'm throwing together. So I took the tarp over to make sure it was long enough, and I am going to have to work on the back corner. While it goes to the end, it doesn't wrap around, and that leaves a little area that wind can get in. Because I am going to tuck this canvas under the metal, I want a way to be able to guide it, and so I'm going to put 550 cord through the top so that I can pull it up in there, and then I can pull it tight using the 550 cord to give it some strength and stability. So that is the next step. Now rather than have to thread the 550 cord through the pocket after it's sewn, I'm going to pin it into the pocket as I go. Now, I will be the first to tell you that I am not an amazing seamstress. I can sew, but I'm not an amazing seamstress. But I still have to do this as a seamstress would because that's what's in me. So I'm pinning and I'm measuring, and it's going to make the overall project easier. because the way this is constructed, so this chicken coop is made out of the cattle panel. So there's no wood in this section at all for me to secure the canvas to. So it is relying on that metal to hold it into place. I hope it's going to work, that if we get a really heavy wind, it does not. Now I'm not going to staple this down yet because obviously you can see we're still in the warmer part of the fall, where we're getting down into freezing at night but getting up into warm temperatures into 70s at day. So I need to get the PVC or the stick, whatever we're going to put in there, to weight that down and then figure out how I'm going to secure the bottom. But so far, I'm super excited about this because this project, so far I have done with zero money, using only what we have on hand, which is lots of grain sacks, thread I had on hand, and some time. So far I've spent a day, over 2 days time, you know, with the hours it's accumulated. I'm going to do the other side, and then I'm going to start the second chicken coop. Now, the next side I'm going to have to construct with different grain sacks, so they measure differently, so I have to remeasure everything and make sure it's going to fit together the same way. The first coop is done, and I'm super happy how it came out. Now, I fully expected it would be really dark in here once I covered the outside, but it's not, so that's amazing. And it is pretty warm in here. Now, the sides still do not have the PVC in them to weight them down, so that's fully movable right now. So the birds are going to get some ventilation, but I'll be sure to get that done before winter sets in. One more coop to go. Well, friends, that is a wrap. That is the most that I can get done with the materials that I have on hand. Now, don't worry, I will get that done. I just need some more material. Now I hope that this video inspires you to reuse and recycle and come up with a good solution for a project at your home or homestead. Now this cost me $0, and I was able to insulate these 2 coops and keep the wind off these chickens and give them a little bit warmer of a place as we get ready for the winter. Now, as always, friends, I really appreciate you watching, especially to the very end. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, hit that button. We'd love you to be a part of the Kowalski Mountain family. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.